Hey GenderqueerChat, Joe here. Happy Sunday. It is like Sunday, September 9th. The year is just marching on. Okay, so this week's topic is, I actually thought it was fascinating, but scant few people have done it this week. We've had a lot of illnesses and just people who have been unable to make their day. So I think there's like Andrea and me, and did one other person do it? Anyway, I like the topic, but it's an intense topic. So here we go. What do you think about radical feminism? Part 1. Part 2 is, in your opinion, how much is gender variance innate or shaped by society? And what's your favorite kind of ice cream? So I'll do ice cream quick. Something chocolatey, peanut buttery. Chocolate peanut butter, Reese's peanut butter cup. Something in that vein. Yeah. Or just like Dairy Queen chocolate dipped ice milk. I do like the fun questions, but I just wanted to leave enough time for this one because it's a big one. So what do you think about radical feminism? So I have always defined myself as a feminist and as a radical feminist until women kind of kicked me out of the clubhouse, if you know what I mean. So when I discovered the word feminist, I can't even really remember. When I was about 18 or 19 years old, I read a book called Backlash by Susan Faludi. And that really shaped a lot of my thinking at the time. In my early 20s, I started to read Andrea Dworkin, and that shaped me further. That's extreme radical feminism. And I started to really understand the definition of radical. I think just through my genderqueerdom and through my just innate being, I've always sort of acted in ways that were contrary to the way women were supposed to act. And I never felt guilty about it, and I never felt like I should be behaving differently, and I never felt like there was something wrong with me. If anything, I was annoyed that women expected me to girl it up, or women expected me to toe the line and make their lives easier by stop rattling the cage and stop. You know, that's a good expression, actually. That just came from rattling the cage we're in, right? I think, like my mother and my sister, I have recollections of them being angry at me for being the way I was because they couldn't be that way. And the radical feminist in me thought, of course you can be this way, just be this way and let the chips fall where they may. And they felt very much defined by the patriarchy and so forth. I think where things started to crumble and where things started to go wrong for me was I've always had extremely strong opinions about things. One of which is a fundamental core feminist belief that women should have the right to choose to live the life they see fit. And I don't believe that for a second. I really don't. I'm very anti-choice in this matter. I think too many women choose poorly. Too many women choose to abide by the patriarchy. They choose to, and a lot of it is I want to say uneducated choices, or they call it choice, but it's so not a choice. But feminists will stand up and argue their right to live their life as they see fit, even if it means, I want to say like, you know, like this 50 Shades of Grey shit, this bondage and submission thing. Women will frequently put themselves in submissive roles, not just sexually, but I mean just in society, and call it a choice and say, this is where I choose to be. Not cluing in for a second that society has forced you into that role. I think too many women, and I grew up, of course, in a Catholic family where my mother told me, you know, this is what a woman is and this is what a woman does. See my previous videos, i.e. marital rape, etc. You know, women were expected to behave in certain ways that were so contrary to what I thought and what I believed to be true and what felt right to me. And so many women say, well, I do it and it's my choice to do it. It's my choice to live my life in a godly way and listen to the Bible. And I don't think that, I don't respect that choice. I really don't. And I know a real radical feminist would, and I don't. So I got kicked out of the clubhouse. I know just this past week, actually, there was a big debate raging on Facebook. Michelle Obama, if you're not American, she's married to the president of the U.S., and only in the U.S. does that even have a name. Normally it's just the spouse of the president, but in the U.S. they call it First Lady, which, don't get me started, stupidest word in the world. She gave a speech at the convention, and by the way, she is a lawyer. She's an extremely educated, articulate, interesting woman who's done a lot of interesting things in her life. And she gave this really powerful, energizing speech about all sorts of things. She's an interesting and articulate woman. And at the end, the very last line she said was, all of that aside, my most important role is mom-in-chief. And so I threw a sort of hissy fit online and said, you know, as a child-free woman who really fights for the rights of the child-free and like kind of against the pro-natalist culture we live in and the pro-mommy culture we live in, you know, I really cannot stand it when women define themselves as mothers to the exclusion of all else. That's fine if you're a mother and you're proud of being a good mother, but lots of people are mothers and shouldn't really be proud of being a mother because they're not very good, or they're just average, or I don't think it's rocket science to be a parent. I really don't. And I know that's a very thing you can't say in today's culture. Like, everyone says it's the hardest job in the world. We have an acronym, THJ, the hardest job in the world acronym. Like, that is like, so it's cliched. It's said so often, you know. It's not the hardest job in the world. There's a lot harder jobs than parenting. And, you know, because so many moms have given up a career or given up who she was to be a mother, they have to justify it somehow. So they say things like it's the hardest job in the world, which is fine. But I don't believe it for a second, and I argue against it. And I also really think it's insulting to women who are lawyers and women who worked hard to get to where they are in life, you know, to toss that all away and say more important than being, you know, this, that, and the other is being a mom in chief. I really did not appreciate that coming out of Michelle Obama's mouth. She was really on par with Ann Romney, the Republican candidate's wife, and yeah, makes me anti-feminist, I suppose, as they say. Now, in my heart, I don't feel like an anti-feminist. In my heart, I feel like a real radical feminist. I still define myself that way. I had a t-shirt once that said, "This is what a feminist looks like." It's hard because, you know, as a woman who didn't fit into, as a female-bodied person who didn't fit into conventional society, I sort of had to scrape and find words to describe myself. And feminist worked for a lot of years because it really does kind of give you empower you to say things like this out loud. Even though people don't like it, I mean, it kind of explained why I was the way I was. And not just your average feminist, but radical. So, I mean, read some Dworkin and wrap your brain around some of that stuff. And she was really reviled by a lot of feminists as well, because her opinions were just so out there, as mine are. But I think as I've discovered the term genderqueer, that defines me so much better. It's such a clearer definition of who I am. And I know men can be feminists, and I know women can be feminists, and now that I don't define as female, the word feminist, I'm not as attached to it. I'm not as strongly attached to the rad femme idea. It's not, I don't need it to define me. I find the word genderqueer is a much better way to describe me and my views. I still have a lot of anger and judgment towards women. That's been a lifelong battle of mine, as I've said in previous videos. I'm not blind. I'm not just saying these things, shooting my mouth off. I'm aware of the fact that they're received poorly. I'm aware of the fact that in some ways they're probably wrong opinions. I probably should be more gentle and kinder to my sisters, and, you know, understand that people make choices for survival reasons, you know, that I will never understand. I don't know what it feels like to walk down the street and be afraid, you know, the way some women have lived their whole lives. I get that. I don't, you know, I'm not always putting myself in their shoes, and I don't 100% comprehend. I just wish it were different, and it makes me angry because it comes so easy to me to live my life this way, and I don't understand why other people can't just live their lives this way, you know, with regards to having a big mouth and a strong opinion and just living your life as you see fit, but the good way, right? The way that, you know, like I make pretty decent money for a woman, right? I live a pretty independent life for a woman, you know. There's a lot of women I know who are financially dependent on men. I'm not. So this kind of thing, you know, I've made these choices, and I'm proud of the choices I make, and sometimes I think other women should have made those choices too. And I know that's wrong. That's kind of how it is in my head. So, all that being said, radical feminism. You know, I hope young people today do take hold of that word and do like lean towards the radical side, because feminism, mainstream feminism, sometimes just gets lost in the shuffle, and, you know, you get all kinds of people defining themselves as feminists. You get a lot of the women who are like the quiverful people, the ones who are having like 18, 20 children, saying, you know, this is my choice to have this many children. And, you know, I wish people would just radicalize the whole notion, you know, and kind of, I'm starting to ramble now, but it really gets me going. Okay, the other question, we have a lot of questions this week. In your opinion, how much is gender variance innate or shaped by society? I didn't even think about that as I was preparing for this week, and I don't think I know the answer to that question. I want to say for myself, probably 75-25. I want to say I'm mostly innate. I think I was just born tomboyish, and I think society allowed me to develop into this because I grew up in a very free and easy society, a mother that encouraged me to be who I am. You know, I think if I were raised in a different country, that this would not be this way at all. But I remember when I was working in a daycare up north, there were all these little kids who used to play, and the girls, it was very strange to me because they were 2s and 3s. They were 2s and 3-year-olds. And they would go, the girls would all go play in the house, and the boys would all play on the monkey bars. And it was pretty divided, except for one little girl named Joy, who was always playing on the monkey bars with the boys. And she had interestingly, she had a shaved head, which I don't know what that was about. Like very, very, very short hair, brush cut. And her parents, I don't even know what that was all about. I don't know why her hair was so short, but she was a very angry child. I remember that. And rough and tumble, and just wanted to play with the boys all the time. And I remember one of my fellow daycare workers asking her if she wanted to go play in the house. And up north, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, the Inuit people, otherwise known as Eskimo, but that's not used in Canada. That's actually a derogatory term in Canada. Inuit is the culture. Have the women typically wear a coat called an amauti, A-M-A-U-T-I. With a big pouch in the back where the baby goes, and the baby usually is in the coat with the mother. And kids are kind of carried on slings or whatever on the mother's back quite a bit. And the little kids who played house, there were little scarves there or whatever, slings that allowed them to carry the dolls on their back. And I remember this little girl walking around with this girl Joy was her name, the little tomboyish girl, with a baby on her back, and she looked kind of irritated, but she was playing, but not for long. I mean, it wasn't long before she went back to the monkey bars and the sandbox. So in that case, you know, very innate, very innate. Okay, hope hope to see you next week, and I hope more people contribute next week, because we had a bit of a lull this week, but we'll see how it goes. Talk to you later.